Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into something quite ambitious, I think. It's this proposal, almost like a new kind of societal funding model designed specifically for the Kathmandu Valley in Nepal.
That's right. And it's definitely unusual. We're pacing this deep dive on sources, mainly an analysis from Democracy for Nepal, which looks at the financial side of this hybrid economic system they're proposing.
Yeah, a hybrid system, mixing things like digital commerce, specifically a ride-hailing app, with, well, pretty radical social welfare. We're talking universal free healthcare here.
Exactly. And the main focus is this offer called the Special Offer, lifetime free treatment at Kalkiwad clinics for residents of Kathmandu Valley. It's this big plan, really, to set up what they call a cross-subsidization framework.
Right, where the profits from a for-profit tech company, Kalki Drive, are legally tied, completely tied, to funding a nonprofit network, free clinics, research centers, the whole package.
So our job today, is to look beyond the, let's say, revolutionary language. We need to really pull apart the financial structure they're suggesting.
Okay. How did they get the money initially? How are they planning to cover costs? And critically, can this ride-hailing app, the Kalki Drive, actually make enough profit consistently to deliver on that promise of free healthcare for life?
That's the core question. Does it actually add up?
Okay, let's unpack this because, yeah, it's definitely a lot more than just building some clinics. It feels like an experiment almost to see if grassroots community money can actually build and sustain a high-tech, high-service system like this.
And doing it without the usual routes, right?
Yeah.
No big foreign aid packages, no relying solely on government funding. It's meant to be self-contained.
So let's start with what's on the table for people in Kathmandu Valley. The big promise: free medical treatment.
Yeah, free treatment at what they say will be over 200 Kalki clinics. That's a pretty dense network.
And the sources say this is guaranteed for at least 2 years, right? But the goal, the big vision, is lifetime access.
Correct. But, and this is key, it's not just automatic. You have to participate. There's an initial contribution, what they're calling a social subscription.
Ah, yes. The RS2 1251. We really need to break that number down, I think. It's specific, and how it's split seems fundamental to how this whole thing is structured legally.
Absolutely fundamental. It's not just one lump sum going into one pot. It's split two ways, very deliberately.
Okay, walk us through it.
First, there's a mandatory RS-251 donation. Now, this money specifically goes to the Kalkiwad Research and Training Center.
Which is set up as a nonprofit. Right?
Exactly. Legally distinct.
Yeah.
So that RS-251 is positioned as your buy-in, your commitment to the social mission side of things. It seeds the research arm first.
Okay, so 251 for the nonprofit research. What about the rest, the bigger chunk?
That's the RS-1000. And this isn't a donation. It's framed as a purchase. You're buying an e-book called The Economic Revolution to Make Nepal a World Guru.
An e-book purchase. So that's commercial revenue, technically.
Precisely. And that RS-1000 is explicitly meant to be the main source of capital to actually launch the clinics, get them up and running.
So two streams: donation to nonprofit, purchase funding the clinic operations. But there's a catch, isn't there? A condition?
A couple crucial ones, yeah. First, if you don't pay the full Rs, 1,251 you're out. No free services eligibility. It's all or nothing.
Okay.
And maybe even more importantly, there's a phased approach. That RS-1000 ebook purchase, that doesn't even start until they hit a critical mass.
Ah, right. The 2 million people target.
Exactly. 2 million people have to first join just by donating the initial Rs, 251. Only then do they open up the RS-1000 book sales.
So they're basically testing the waters, seeing if the initial idea gets traction before trying to raise the bigger operational funds. It manages risk.
It does. It ensures the nonprofit research center gets seeded first. And it proves there's significant community buy-in before they commit to the massive clinic rollout.
That target, 2 million people, 20 lakh residents, that's a huge chunk of Kathmandu Valley's population. I mean, that requires an incredible level of immediate trust from the community.
It's unprecedented, really, for a crowdfunding effort like this.
Okay, let's assume they hit it. It's ambitious, but let's say they do. What kind of initial capital pool are we talking about?
Well, let's do the math. 2 million people paying Rs, 251.
Yeah.
It's roughly Rs. 502 million. And remember, that's earmarked for the Kalkiwad Research Center.
Right, the nonprofit side.
Then, when those same 2 million people potentially buy the RS-1000 ebook, that generates another Rs, 2 billion.
So, adding it all up.
The total projected initial revenue for the whole ecosystem comes out to about Rs, 2.5 billion.
Which is, what, around $19 million USD? give or take?
Roughly, yeah. And the crucial point they keep emphasizing on the source material is that this is all raised locally.
Zero foreign investment, zero big institutional money. It's positioned as, like, sovereign startup capital, funded by the citizens themselves.
Which is a powerful narrative. But it leads straight to the big practical question. Is RS 2.5 billion actually enough to build and run 200 clinics?
Yeah, we need to look at the costs, the operational expenditure, the OpEx. What does the analysis say about that?
It provides a pretty detailed breakdown. They estimate an annual cost of RS 6.7 million per clinic.
Per clinic, per year. And that's not just a random number.
No, they seem to have thought it through. It includes staffing. They figure 5 people per clinic,
Yeah.
2 doctors, 2 nurses, 1 pharmacist or admin person,
Okay.
plus rent, which isn't cheap in the valley, utilities, medicines, supplies, and importantly, those diagnostic services like the culture tests we'll talk about later.
So if one clinic costs our 6.7 million a year, and they're planning 200 of them,
You scale that up, and the total annual operating cost for the entire network comes out to around ours, 1.34 billion per year.
wow. Okay, let's just pause there. RS 1.34 billion annually, just to keep the lights on and staff paid. That's a massive number, especially for Nepal.
It's huge, and this is where some caution flags appear in the analysis.
Like what? The source rated the operational cost management as only moderate, right? What's the concern there?
The concern is that hitting that R's 1.34 billion target relies on extreme efficiency. Think about models like Aravind Eye Care in India. Super high volume, incredibly lean operations.
So if they're not perfectly efficient.
If clinic usage is lower than projected, or if costs for rent or staff salaries creep up, and inflation is always a factor, that R's 1.34 billion could balloon quickly, it assumes those 5 staff members are working flat out, efficiently, and the supply chain for medicines and tests is tightly managed. Any slack, and the costs rise.
Okay, so efficiency is key, but let's look at the initial numbers again. They raise Rs 2.5 billion from the community. The annual running cost is Rs 1.34 billion.
Right, and when you compare those two figures,
The initial money does cover the running costs for a decent period.
it does. That R's 2.5 billion, if they raise it all, is enough to fund those 200 clinics for somewhere between 18 and 20 months. Maybe a bit longer with careful phasing.
So that initial promise, the 2 years of free treatment guaranteed, it actually holds up financially, based on the initial crowdfunding.
Yes, provided they hit the funding target and roll out the clinic smartly, not all at once maybe. That 18-20-month window is financially validated by the initial capital raise.
That's crucial. It gives them breathing room, time to get the next phase up and running.
Exactly. It buys them the time they desperately need to launch phase 2,
Yeah.
the engine that's supposed to make it sustainable forever.
Right, because that 18 to 20-month runway, that's just the start. It doesn't fulfill the lifetime promise. Which brings us to that central question the source asks directly. After 2 years, how will lifetime free clinics be funded?
And the answer, the entire long-term plan rests on one thing: the Kalkiwad drive. This is the for-profit side of the equation.
A ride-hailing app?
Yeah, a full-blown ride-hailing company. They plan to go head-to-head with the existing players, Pathio, InDrive, Yango, all the big names already operating in Kathmandu.
Using the same app people use for the initial sign-up and the ebook purchase?
That's the plan. Integrated platform. And they're not planning to wait long. The target launch is aggressive within 3 to 4 months of getting that initial capital in the door.
Okay, so this is where it stops being just crowdfunding and becomes this, well, unique kind of social enterprise. And the key mechanism here is the profit structure.
Absolute key. The sources are explicit. The Kalkiwad Drive company operates under a zero dividend policy,
Meaning?
meaning 100% of the profits generated by the ride-hailing business cannot go to shareholders or owners. By law, it must be used exclusively and perpetually to fund the operations of the free clinic network.
Wow. So the profit is legally locked to the mission. It's like an endowment fund, but funded by taxi rides instead of investments.
Exactly. The profits become a permanent funding stream for public health. Now, of course, the big if is whether that engine can actually generate enough profit. You need to look at the Kathmandu market.
Right. How big is the potential pie they're trying to get a slice of? Kathmandu Valley. It's dense, about 3 million people.
Roughly, yeah. And the source estimates there are already around 800,000 active users of ride-hailing apps. So people are already used to using these services. The behavior is there.
And that user base must generate a lot of money in rides.
A huge amount. The analysis puts the total annual value of rides in the valley at something like RS 100 billion.
100 billion rupees. That's about $750 million USD, right? Every year. Just in Kathmandu.
Yeah. It's a massive market. The potential is definitely there.
Okay, so if Kalkisenna Drive comes in and manages to take, say, a standard 10% commission on rides booked through their app.
Then the potential gross commission, just based on that 10% cut of the total market, could be RS 10 billion annually. That's the top line revenue stream from commission.
Well, 10 million in potential commission. Of course, they have costs too, running the app, marketing support.
Right. But even if they manage, let's say, a 10% net profit margin on that gross commission, which is challenging but possible, that still translates to RS 1 billion in net profit per year.
Okay, RS 1 billion profit per year from the app. Let's connect that back to the clinics. We said the 200 clinics cost about Rs 1.34 billion a year to run.
Exactly. So that RS 1 billion profit from the app gets them a long way. It's enough to sustainably fund somewhere between 75 and 100 clinics indefinitely, just from the app profits.
So not quite enough for all 200 clinics based on that 10% market commission, 10% net margin model.
Not quite. It means the threshold for full sustainability is clear. They either need to find about Rs 340 million in savings from the clinic operations more efficiency, or the app needs to make more profit.
How much more? What market share do they actually need?
The analysis concludes that if Kalkiwad Drive can capture between 15% and 20% of that total Rs 100 billion ride market,
So grab 15–20% market share.
then the profits generated should be enough to cover the full Rs 1.34 billion annual cost for all 200 clinics. That's the point where the entire system comes self-sustaining, moving into what they call phase 3.
Okay, but hang on. Getting 15% or 20% market share, especially quickly, against established international companies like Patheo and Yango, they have huge budgets, existing users who are happy enough. That sounds incredibly difficult. Is the source maybe a bit too optimistic here?
It acknowledges the challenge, definitely. It's a massive hurdle. But the argument is that Kalkiwad Drive has a couple of potential trump cards that the foreign apps just don't have.
Like what? How do they plan to win over drivers and riders so quickly?
Well, for drivers, the source mentions a potentially radical incentive, a 100% fair model.
100%. Meaning the drivers keep the entire fare. How does the app make money then?
It implies maybe a flat subscription fee for drivers or some other model, but the core idea is giving drivers a much, much better deal than the commission structure of the competitors. That could, theoretically, trigger a mass exodus of drivers over to their platform.
Okay, that's a powerful incentive for drivers who are essential. What about passengers? Why would I switch apps?
That's the second trump card, the mission itself. Using Kalkiwad Drive isn't just about getting from A to B. It's framed as directly funding your own community's free healthcare.
Ah, the social angle.
Yeah, they could even integrate clinic benefits into the app. Maybe users get priority access or small discounts on something else linked to their ride usage. It turns the app from just a utility into like a key to social benefit.
Yeah.
The value proposition is completely different.
You're not just paying for a ride, you're investing in national health.
Exactly. Which ties directly into this whole narrative around economic nationalism and stopping capital flight.
Right, that's a big part of the pitch, isn't it?
A huge part. It's the moral argument, essentially. The source makes a point of highlighting that the current foreign ride-hailing companies are estimated to be taking Rs 400 to 500 million in profits out of Nepal every year.
Money leaving the country entirely.
Yes. So the message becomes, use our app, the Nepali app, with the locked profit model, and you stop that capital flight. You keep that money circulating within Nepal, and you channel it directly into something everyone needs healthcare. It connects a simple daily choice, like hailing a ride, to a much bigger idea of economic self-reliance.
So, okay, we've got the money side, the initial funding, the sustainability engine. But let's dig into the why. What's the core mission here, beyond just the finances?
Well, the sources are very clear that this isn't primarily about building a profitable tech company. The clinics themselves are strictly nonprofit. Their stated purpose is, and I quote, to protect public health and secure Nepal's future.
That's a big claim. And they have a very specific health focus, don't they? Something quite sophisticated for a grassroots network.
Yes, surprisingly specific. They're targeting one of the biggest looming global health threats, antibiotic resistance, or AMR.
Right, AMR, that's a huge, complex problem. Why make that the central focus?
Well, the source material frames it as an existential threat for Nepal, arguing this initiative is needed to save the country from entering the post-antibiotic era after 2050. You know, a time when common infections could become deadly again because antibiotics don't work.
Which is a terrifying prospect globally, yeah.
And they identify a key driver of AMR in Nepal, which is common in many places, the overuse and misuse of antibiotics, often bought over the counter without a proper diagnosis.
The source calls it consuming slow poison, right?
It does. And their proposed solution is pretty radical, especially for free clinics. They promise to conduct free culture tests whenever possible.
Culture tests. Those are the lab tests that actually identify the specific bacteria causing an infection, right? So doctors know exactly which antibiotic will work, if any is needed at all.
Exactly. It avoids that blanket use of broad-spectrum antibiotics that just breeds resistance faster. Offering these tests for free is a massive step because normally they're expensive, which is why people often just grab cheap, generic antibiotics instead.
So providing free culture tests removes a major financial barrier and directly tackles that misuse problem. That's actually quite a sophisticated public health intervention. It's not just basic primary care.
No, it elevates the whole initiative significantly. It gives it a very specific, high-impact scientific goal beyond just treating coughs and colds.
Okay, beyond the AMR focus, the initiative also seems designed to tackle some big socioeconomic issues in Nepal, like brain drain and unemployment.
Definitely. The clinics are planned as major employers. One explicit goal is to create enough good jobs to prevent, or at least reduce, the number of doctors leaving Nepal each year. The source estimates that number at 400 to 500 doctors annually.
That's a huge loss of talent for the country.
It really is. And here we need to be careful and just report what the source material says because it gets quite political.
Okay. What comparison does it draw?
Well, the source directly contrasts this initiative with clinics set up by Kathmandu's mayor, Balin Shah. It claims, and again, this is the source's claim, that the mayor's clinics, perhaps due to their structure or pay, end up pushing doctors abroad.
Whereas this initiative linked to JSA
Is being set up, according to the source, specifically with the aim and structure needed to keep doctors in Nepal. So it positions itself as a direct competitor in terms of public service delivery and impact on medical professionals.
that definitely puts it right in the middle of local politics.
Absolutely. And there's another layer to the employment strategy, too. It mentions specifically offering 500 to 600 jobs to family members of people who were injured or martyred during the recent Gen Z revolution protests in Kathmandu.
Wow. So that's weaving in a kind of social reparation or targeted support element directly into the clinic's staffing plan.
It seems so. It's a way to build very deep loyalty and support from specific communities, which could be crucial for getting that initial 2 million member buy-in we talked about. It's not just about finance, it's about building a movement.
Okay, let's circle back to that initial Rs 2501 donation. We said it funds the Kalkiwad Research Center, this non-governmental institute of economists. This is where the broader ideology Kalkiwad comes in, right?
Yes, and we really need to brace ourselves here because the claims associated with Kalkiwad, if it were fully implemented, are, well, they're monumental. They go way beyond just healthcare or economics. It's a vision for a total societal transformation.
Okay, give us the highlights. What are the biggest claims?
Right. First, there's a claim about currency valuation that's just staggering.
Oh.
They predict achieving a state where 1 Nepali rupee equals 25 Indian rupees.
Wait, 1 Nepali rupee equals 25 Indian rupees? Currently, it's pegged the other way around, like 1.6 Nepali rupees to 1 Indian rupee, right?
Exactly. Reversing that and getting to 1.25 implies such a massive boom in Nepal's economic strength, productivity, and stability. It would completely reshape the regional economy. The source suggests this comes from things like eliminating corruption and boosting local production, but the scale of the claim is just immense.
Okay, what else?
Then there's the claim about private services. The Kalkiwad system, they say, will eventually lead to all private schools and hospitals offering completely free education.
Free education from nursery all the way to PhD. And free medical training, MBBS to MD.
That's the claim. And free treatment in all private hospitals, too. It suggests the Kalki clinic model is just the first step. And this principle of free access will eventually become the standard across the entire private sector in Nepal.
That's a complete overhaul of the service economy.
Total overhaul. And then there are the headline numbers on corruption and jobs. The proposal claims Kalkiwad would reduce corruption by 95%.
95%? How?
The analysis hints at things like radical transparency, using blockchain for public finances, which connects back to digital strategy, and cutting dependency on foreign systems, which they argue create avenues for corruption. It's definitely a leap, but that's the stated goal.
And alongside that, ending the dowry system and creating how many jobs?
5 to 6 million new jobs across Nepal, and permanently ending the practice of dowry. So you see, the vision extends far beyond just the clinics.
It really does. It's aiming for deep social and economic restructuring. And they're trying to fuel this through engaging young people, right? There's an incentive for students.
Yes, to build the intellectual base for Kalkiwad. They offer hostile student teams who join Kalkiwad training sessions a Rs 500 allowance.
Just for attending training?
Seems so. And after a year of committed training, they're apparently promised guidance on how they can get their college fees completely waived.
So it's a direct financial incentive to get educated youth involved and invested in making this whole theoretical model work.
Exactly. Capture the next generation, embed the ideology, and provide a pathway for them within the system. It's about long-term continuity.
Okay, so we have this ambitious plan. The initial funding seems plausible if they hit the numbers. The long-term engine, the ride-hailing app, has potential but faces huge competition. Now let's really get into the risks. What could go wrong? The sources must detail the weak points.
Oh, absolutely. The analysis is quite clear on the major risks and suggests ways to handle them or mitigate them. There are three big ones.
It's the first.
The most immediate risk is simply low member uptake. What if they don't get those 2 million people signing up with the initial Rs? 251.
But then the whole R's $2.5 billion initial capital falls short.
Exactly. And that jeopardizes the entire 18 to 20-month runway before the app even gets a chance to generate serious profit.
So what's the backup plan if signups are slow?
Mitigation here is a staggered rollout. Instead of trying to launch all 200 clinics at once, they'd start smaller. Maybe launch 50 clinics first, see how the funding goes, and scale up gradually as more members join and contribute.
Okay, that makes sense. Conserves cash, but might mean slower service expansion. What's the second major risk?
This is the big commercial one. Market competition. We touched on this. How does Kalkiwad Drive possibly compete against Pathio, InDrive, Yangaram, these established players with deep pockets and existing user bases? They need that 15–20% market share fast.
Yeah, how do they realistically expect to pull that off?
The mitigation strategy hinges on those unique incentives we discussed. For drivers, that potential 100% fair model or significantly better revenue sharing. The idea is to make the offer so good that drivers switch en masse, crippling the competition's supply side.
And for users?
For users, it's linking the app directly to the clinics. It's not just a ride app. It's your key to free healthcare. That unique value proposition, combined with the support Nepal angle, is what they hope will drive user adoption quickly.
Okay, so incentives and mission. What's the third big risk?
Profit volatility. Even if the app launches successfully, what if its profits aren't stable? Maybe there's a price war. Maybe the tech isn't reliable. Maybe the market shrinks. If the Drive app underperforms, the clinic funding dries up instantly once that initial 18-month buffer is gone.
That could collapse the whole system. How do they guard against that?
Financial prudence is key here. The analysis suggests two main things. First, build a reserve fund quickly from any early profits, creating a buffer against downturns. Second, don't rely solely on ride-hailing. Diversify revenue streams as soon as possible. Maybe expand into logistics and delivery. Look at potential advertising partnerships within the app and leverage the data ethically, hopefully from that massive user base they aim to build. Data analytics could be another income source.
Okay, managing risks through phasing, incentives, reserves, and diversification. That brings us to what the analysis flagged as the weakest link: governance and transparency.
Yeah, this is crucial. The whole model is basically like an endowment fund, right? A for-profit business funding a non-profit mission forever. For people to trust that, they need absolute transparency.
They need to know that 100% of the profit from the Drive app is actually going to the clinics, not getting siphoned off somewhere. What mechanisms are proposed for that?
This is where the analysis rated it weak. The ideas are there and they sound good. They talk about that zero dividend policy being legally binding. They talk about digital transparency, maybe using a blockchain ledger so anyone can track the money flow publicly.
A public digital ledger? That sounds promising.
It does. And they also stress the need for operational autonomy, keeping the NGO, the Kalkiwad Research Center, and the clinics legally separate from the private limited company running the Kalkiwad Drive app.
Why is that legal separation so important? Seems like just paperwork.
It's much more than paperwork. It's critical for trust and taxes. First, it prevents conflicts of interest. The Drive app's job is to make profit competitively. The NGO's job is to spend that profit effectively on healthcare. Keeping them separate means the transfer of funds has to be a clear, auditable transaction between two entities.
I see. So you can actually track the money moving from the for-profit to the nonprofit.
Exactly. Plus, the NGO needs to maintain its nonprofit status for potential tax benefits or grants, while the Drive app operates under normal corporate rules. If they're blurred together, it undermines the whole structure and public confidence. People need to see the money transferring to the mission.
Okay, so if the ideas like zero dividends, digital ledgers, and legal separation are there, why did the analysis still rate governance and transparency as weak?
Because, according to the source, these are mostly intentions right now, not fully fleshed out, legally watertight designs. Promising a blockchain ledger is one thing. Actually implementing a legally binding, publicly auditable system that defines the profit transfer mechanism and has penalties for misuse is another. The concrete how was seen as underdeveloped. The mission lock needs to be legally bulletproof under Nepali law.
So the plumbing isn't fully designed yet, basically.
That seems to be the assessment. The concept is strong, but the implementation details for governance need serious work.
Okay, let's pull back and look at the overall feasibility verdict from the analysis. What's strong, what's weak?
The summary ratings are quite telling. The startup capital model, raising the initial Rs,
Mm-hmm.
2.5 billion through community crowdfunding, is rated strong. They believe it's financially achievable.
Good start. What about the money engine?
The recurring revenue engine, the Kalkiwad Drive app model, is also rated strong in terms of its potential. The market size is there. The model could work if they hit those market share targets.
Okay, so the funding sources look potentially strong. Where are the main concerns?
It comes down to efficiency and oversight, like you said. Operational cost management for the clinics is rated moderate. Keeping that Rs 1.34 billion annual cost under control, especially with free culture tests and staffing across 200 sites, requires relentless efficiency. That's seen as a challenge.
Then the big one.
And, as we just discussed, transparency and governance is rated weak. The mechanisms to guarantee the money flows correctly and build public trust need much clearer design and robust implementation.
Which leads us nicely to the practical advice. What does the source material suggest they actually do to strengthen those weak points and increase the chances of success?
The recommendations are pretty pragmatic. First, don't go all in immediately. Start with a pilot project.
Like the staggered rollout idea.
Exactly. Maybe just 20 clinics and aim for 50,000 initial users. Test the logistics, refine the cost estimates, work out the kinks on a smaller scale before committing the full budget. Learn by doing.
Makes sense. What else?
Implement a health wallet feature in the app right from the start.
A health wallet. What would that do?
It acts as a personal proof of impact for each member. When you pay your Rs 1,200 and 251, the wallet shows your membership is active. But more than that, it could potentially track the value of the free services you access, or maybe even show an estimate of how your contribution is helping fund care for others.
So it makes the benefit tangible and reinforces the value, builds trust.
Precisely. It connects your contribution directly to the outcome. And to tackle that weak governance rating head on.
They need those public audits.
Absolutely. The recommendation is to institute public audit dashboards immediately. Make them live, ideally built on that blockchain ledger they talk about, showing income from the Drive app and spending by the clinics in near real time. Radical transparency.
And
Finally, don't rely solely on the Drive app profits for everything, especially the specialized stuff. Seek external grants, maybe from organizations like the WHO or UNDP, specifically for the expensive but crucial AMR prevention program, those free culture tests. Diversify the funding base for key initiatives.
Okay, so we've got the model, the risks, the recommendations. Now, let's zoom out a bit. Is this Kalkiwad idea completely out of the blue, or are there precedents?
The sources do mention global examples, right?
They do, and this is where it gets really interesting, I think. While the whole package might be unique, many of the individual pieces have been tried and proven elsewhere.
So it's not just a wild theory. Let's break that down. That core idea of locking a company's profit to a social mission-locked profit. We've seen that before, haven't we?
Oh, definitely. The classic examples are Patagonia and Newman's Own. Newman's Own has given away literally all its profits to charity for decades, purely based on its legal structure.
Right, this salad dressing company. Yeah. And Patagonia recently transferred its ownership structure so that basically all profits that aren't reinvested in the business go towards fighting climate change. It proves that you can legally structure a for-profit company so that its ultimate purpose is social good, not shareholder enrichment.
So the governance model itself is viable. It shows the engine, whether it's selling clothes or salad dressing or, in this case, ride-hailing, can be secondary to the legally defined purpose.
Exactly. The legal structure is paramount. Now, what about the healthcare side? Cross-subsidized healthcare.
India comes to mind immediately, right? With models like Aravind Eye Care or Narayana Health.
Precisely. They are world leaders in high-volume, low-cost, high-quality care. They typically use a model where paying patients, often getting more elective procedures, subsidize free or very low-cost care for the poor. It's an internal cross-subsidy.
How is the Kalki model different then?
The key difference is where the subsidy comes from. In Aravind or Narayana, it's generated within the healthcare system. Paying patients subsidize non-paying ones. In the Kalki model, the subsidy is entirely external. It comes from a completely separate business, the ride-hailing app. The clinics themselves don't need to generate surpluses from other patients.
It's a different funding pipeline altogether, and we also see large NGOs funding themselves through businesses like BRC in Bangladesh.
VRC is an incredible example of scale. They run numerous social enterprises, dairy, poultry, retail, that generate something like 80% of their massive NGO budget. It proves that large-scale social programs can be substantially self-financed through commercial activities. Achieving that Rs 1.34 billion annual target isn't theoretically impossible.
Okay, so mission lock profit is possible. High volume, efficient healthcare delivery is possible. NGO self-funding through business is possible. If all these elements exist, what makes the Kalkiwad model, as proposed for Kathmandu, truly novel or unique? What's the aha moment here?
The main novelty, according to the sources, is the specific structural combination applied at a citywide public infrastructure level. Meaning, no major city seems to have structurally dedicated 100% of the operating profits from a core piece of its mobility infrastructure ride-hailing, which is becoming an essential urban service to perpetually fund a comprehensive, citywide, free clinic network that's focused on something as specific and preventative as AMR. It's the direct link between urban mobility finance and public health necessity that's new.
It's knitting together two usually separate systems.
Exactly. And also, the dual mission is quite unusual. It combines social capitalism using profit for welfare with a very specific advanced scientific public health goal, namely AMR reduction. It's not just general charity, it's targeted preventative medicine funded by commerce.
And that initial funding method is pretty unique too, right?
Oh yeah, the seed capital method. That mass membership drive, the Rs 251 donation, plus the Rs 1000 ebook purchase, it's a really innovative way to raise significant grassroots capital without relying on investors or banks. It's sovereign, citizen-led funding on a potentially massive scale.
So if someone trying to implement this in Kathmandu looked at these global examples, Aravind, Patagonia, BRAC, what's the single biggest lesson they should take away?
The analysis boils it down to two imperatives. First, they absolutely must achieve Aravind Narayana-style operational efficiency in the clinics. They have to deliver high-quality care, including those expensive culture tests, within that tight Rs 1.34 billion budget. Waste is not an option.
Efficiency is survival.
And second, they must immediately implement that Patagonia Newman's own style legal mission log. The corporate structure, the bylaws, everything must legally guarantee, tied in, ding, ding, set in stone, that 100% of the Drive app's profit flows to the clinics forever. No loopholes.
That legal and operational integrity seems like the final make or break point, turning it from a cool two-year idea into something that could actually last.
Absolutely. Without both, the long-term promise collapses. #outro.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Synthesizing everything we've dug into today, it seems the analysis confirms that, yes, a 2-year runway for these 200 free clinics, it's financially plausible.
Yeah, the initial crowdfunding part, the Rs, 2.5 billion, it adds up if they can mobilize those 2 million people. The seed capital phase seems strong on paper.
But, and it's a huge but, making the leap to lifetime free treatment, that hangs entirely on the Kalki Drive app.
It really does. It has to win that crucial 15% to 20% slice of a very tough competitive market in Kathmandu. That sustainability engine needs to fire on all cylinders, be super efficient, and crucially have its profits legally ring-fenced for the clinics. No leakage.
The sources seem to frame this whole Rs 251 subscription model as something potentially revolutionary for Nepal, like Nepal's first mass-scale public crowdfunding revolution.
Yeah, the implication is that it could be a proof of concept. Proof that citizens can band together to fund major universal services like healthcare, bypassing traditional reliance on taxes, which can be inefficient, or foreign aid, which can be unreliable or come with strings.
It really makes you rethink how public goods could be funded.
It does. And it leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought, I think. If a company's core purpose, its reason for existing, is legally locked, absolutely guaranteed to serve the social good, does the actual business it does, the economic engine, really matter that much?
You mean whether it's ride-hailing or selling coffee or making widgets?
Exactly. Is the key thing the business, or is the key thing the governance structure?
Mm.
The structure that ensures 100% of the value generated flows transparently to the public mission and maintains that public trust. Maybe that's the real test of this kind of new economic architecture they're proposing.
Something for us all to think about. Thanks for breaking that down.
My pleasure. It's a fascinating, complex model.